Hey, great day, everyone, and welcome back to the Therapists Deserve Abundance podcast. And so I know it has been a while since we have had guests on the podcast, but we are bringing it back. It is the wrap up of a long, beautiful, and interesting year. And so I thought that we would pull in some therapists in our dynamic community. So we have a awesome guest, Letitia, and she is part of a good amount of our communities as a mental health provider. But I want to welcome her to the podcast and make sure that y'all give her some praise in the comment section. And so,
Thank
welcome to the
you.
podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yes. And so, just like context, everybody, this podcast episode came about a little bit different. And so, typically, we have the therapist on here during the Mental Health Awareness Month, and we do like a 5-week campaign highlighting therapists in different niches and things like that. A month ago, or maybe 2 months ago at this point,
Mhm.
in the beginning of the fall, we had opened up our doors to the In Her Collective, which is our membership community. And while it is focused on women and entrepreneurship, it's on the forefront focused on us taking care of ourselves and making sure that we can show up as business owners taking care of ourselves. So we had a challenge, and she was one of the winners of the challenge where they pretty much had to go in there and brag on themselves on social media. And so I wanted them to come and brag on the podcast out loud. And so we'll make sure to link up her social media profiles. But I want to start it off with an introduction, you letting us know and the listeners know where are you located, license type, and then we'll get into a little bit about your history and your journey.
Perfect. So I am Letitia Ware. I am a certified school counselor. I am pre-licensure for my LPC, and I am located in the state of Texas.
Oh, big Texas, big Texas. We got a lot of
Yes.
clients out there, but it's like everybody's 3 to 4 hours apart from each
Yeah.
other. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, and then do you do most of your services right now online, in person, or a mixture of both?
So I have my company, Minds Under Construction, goes and does counseling virtually for the state of Texas, Illinois, the Republic of Palau, and Africa.
Wow. Okay.
I just recently took on a position at a adoption agency where I am going in and working in the office, and I'm meeting still virtually because I am the only adoption stabilization counselor there. And so some of my clients are international and some of them are all over the United States. And so I still do it virtually there.
Okay. Okay. So that's a lot of diversification right there. So we'll
It's a
we'll get
lot.
into current work. Yeah, I want to hear all about that. All right. So we have a good amount of students that listen and watch the podcast, pre-licensed providers, and then of course licensed and seasoned. And so let's take it all the way back because everybody's journey and story is different. How did you get into or choosing the mental health field or even just the major of, well, I know everybody has different majors, so I don't even want to assume psychology or counseling because that could
Mhm.
change.
Yeah. So I was in education for Oh, I guess at this time, maybe about 7 years. And I was always the teacher that the students came to, that the parents came to, that the teachers came to talk about all the things, everything that was going on. They always needed help. They always needed to just, have someone to listen through, the things that they were going through. And so I was like, you know what? I'm already doing this. So let me just go to back to school. So I went back to school for school counseling.
Okay.
And then after doing school counseling, I was just like, you know what? I want to take this bigger. Like I love what I do on this campus, but I want to be able to touch more lives. And so that's when I started Minds Under Construction. I literally went out to have surgery in March of 2023 and was like, I ain't going back into a building. I was like, I ain't doing it. And so I had my surgery over spring break in March of 2023. And the end of March, when I said I wasn't going back into a building,
Mhm.
started developing programs, started to developing things that would I could put into a counseling program outside of the school dynamic. In April, started my business, and by June, I had contracts that doubled my salary
Wow.
that I was making in the schools, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's it. I'm
I'm
done."
done. I'm done.
I went back to. I had to finish out my contract, of course, and so I went back to school in the building for a week, and
Okay.
then I was out and have been doing Minds Under Construction since then.
So is the counseling side your technically your second career, like on paper?
On which one? You mean like the
Based on you choosing to go to school to go ahead and get like the certification. The reason I ask is on YouTube, we get a lot of seasoned adults. And I think that people just want us to give them permission to go to school, to go after what they want. And so they
Mhm.
ask, and I'm like, you can go back to school and do whatever you want. You can be however age you want to be as long as you are going to finish. And I like to hear, even when people just switch lanes, but they may have been doing something similar, I want people to hear that things are possible and they can be a lot better than what you imagined if you just go
Absolutely.
after it.
Yeah, so I started out right in education, which, like I said, I was doing that 7 years before I even went back to school. When I went back to school, I had two kids. I was working full time, and at the time, my oldest was in he was in high school, maybe junior in high school when I first started, and he was playing basketball year round. So like it was busy, but what I wanted was what I wanted, and I was going to
Yeah,
achieve that goal. Like in
right.
my mind, it was I'm going back to school. It's my son's junior year. He'll be graduating. I'll be graduating around the same time. And I wanted him to see what that
Mhm.
hustle looked like. I wanted him to see what success looked like. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. That's an awesome why too, because I know we also have a lot of parents in our community. We have a lot of moms, and it's interesting outside of probably those who connect at our live events or those who show up a lot on our community calls. I get more of it in my DM, and I'm like, y'all have no idea how much in common you have with one
Yeah.
another, but we are so much operated, even nowadays in 2025, in silos, like in our home office or in our
Mhm.
own contractual agreements that we kind of move alone, we talk
Mhm.
alone. The only people we talk to is the clients,
Right,
and our
right. And
kids.
yeah. And that's what I tell my nieces, like, I can't do this and I'm tired. And I'm like, girl, listen, you are young with a huge support system. You you have one child, like you can do it. Like if Jada
Exactly.
can do it, you can do it. So it's just
Exactly.
the point of, of course we talk about that work-life balance too,
Hmm.
setting yourself up and making yourself to where you do have that break. Yes, you want to achieve your goals, but having that balance in time management and
Hmm.
just, setting what those values or your goals are and, going after what you want.
Yeah. So you said some buzzwords, and they typically come up about every other week in all of our communities, which is time management, work-life balance, what is balance, and then we talk about work-life integration. And so
Hmm.
let's look at time management first. And
Hmm.
I want to ask you in two different phases.
Okay.
When you were deciding to go back to school and do whatever you needed to do to finish, how did you manage your time back then with kids?
Okay, so with kids and working full time as a
Yes.
teacher, and I'll
Yes.
tell you this, I was always, well, first, I'm a calendar girl. I calendar everything. If it is not on my calendar, it does not happen. But with that, I was also the teacher who my kids were very independent, and I trained them to be that way. Everything was done, electronically. They already had set what was supposed to happen. So with that, I was able to get a lot of work done during the school day,
Right.
while my kids were doing their projects, since I did project-based learning. And so
Mhm.
while they were doing their projects, I was doing my projects.
That's great.
While, I was, during the daytime. So I hardly ever came home with work from school because, and that's my like at my college, because
Mhm.
I was doing the things. I had managed my time throughout the day with my students and my schoolwork to where I didn't have to. I still had the availability for my kids. I still was able to go to all of his basketball games. At the time, my little one was maybe 3 or 4, and so still had time to spend with him. Just being able to manage it and knowing, all right, if I know that I need to, these assignments have to be done, what are the things that I need to do with it? I took a lot of mini courses too
Mhm.
that were during our break so that I could get all the stuff done. So I was taking courses that were 2 weeks long, and we went every single day and we would be there for 8 hours. And while most of the people were sitting there and saying, oh, well, I'm going to leave early because, I can just finish this at home. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
I'm finishing it right here. I'm going to get it done. And that's how I did it.
So listen, this is like I feel like this is great timing. I'm not going to say her name because typically when questions come into the DTA program, I don't say the name on the private podcast, but I will read the question. I'm going to read you this question.
Okay.
She'll know what it is, and she'll probably be like, "Oh my gosh, this is great timing." So for she who is listening, I literally got this email at 10, like at 9:58 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right before I hopped on Zoom. I read
Mhm.
it, and then I'm like, okay, I'll record a podcast episode before the end of this week. And literally what you just said pretty much opened up the door, the floodgates to answer her question. And
Okay.
so her question was, hold on, let me pull it up. Because she had said that she had listened to, what was it, an October call in DTA, and somebody, I guess, had referenced how they don't get the work done unless somebody is watching them. Okay, so this is what she said. I re-listened to October 2025 coaching call, and a DTA sis mentioned how, quote, if there isn't anyone watching her, she will lack with follow through. Because I want to get to like how you created your own project process, even within your home, even within like you going to school to get work done, right? She said that really resonated with me because for a while I've questioned if I'm a business owner or an entrepreneur. This has replayed in my head because if there isn't anyone watching or if it's all up to me to work on my business, I lag with the follow through. I believe it's the energy that I misplace in other places. How do I course correct towards being obsessed and focused on the big goal, just like I was obsessed and focused on obtaining an LMFT? And the reason I wanted to pull this in because what you literally described is how I would have responded to her and how I am going to respond to her, but I'm going to tell her to listen to this like on the episode, which is it's very interesting that I know that school is set up for us to be systematized. And then if you work in the school system, it's like you have a gift for that. Otherwise, you wouldn't work in the school system and be a teacher or whatnot. And so the cool part is if you have that skill set or if you're used to it, all we're asking people to do as an entrepreneur is transfer those skills over to doing it in your own business. But yes, you don't have anyone watching you. So I know that you mentioned just a moment ago, you had a bigger why. Like you led with not just you wanted to do it for you wanted to test out something different. And it was just things that came naturally to you. That's great. But then also your child was watching you and you wanted to see him. You wanted to see him watch you evolve into another level of success because he saw success, but
Right.
you knew that you weren't done. And so I just wanted to read that. And if you have a reaction to that clinician in our
Yeah.
community, because I thought that was really interesting, because that's what she holds on to is how can I make myself finish?
Yeah, I think one of those, and you and I have had this conversation too, where I need a syllabus. I
Mm-hmm.
need to know, I need a plan of action to make it happen. So, um, in school, of course, you have a syllabus. I knew what needed to be done. I was checking out stuff as it was getting done. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing it ahead of time because I knew I didn't want to wait to the last minute to get it done. I had other things to do.
Yep.
And so I would set out that time to get it done. Same thing with being, I was working as a teacher. There is a scope and sequence that you have to follow. In the summertime, I did my entire lesson plans for the entire year. And so I knew what needed to happen. And so it was done. My
Mm-hmm.
students knew what they were expected to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came into business, because that was a skill I learned in school when I was working as a teacher, create a scope and sequence, create your lesson plan, and then go do what needs to happen. And so when I got into business, I would literally be very intentional about, okay, this is what I know I need to do for this quarter. If this is the goal I need at the end of the year, how do I break this up into semesters or
Mm-hmm.
terms, your quarters, and achieving those goals and setting it out to do it.
Yeah. And now everything makes more sense because I look back to like we had that telegram, you had that bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were talking about like opportunities and we were talking about framework and all those things. And I can always tell when I hear the therapist start to talk and formulate their process, which is what I love. I'm like, man, if you taking this into therapy, your clients have no other choice but to succeed because just like our children, just like our students, just like we as business owners, our clients also need structure. And I find it very
Mm-hmm.
interesting because when some of us are trained in more process oriented clinical orientations, like we were trained in all of them, but then we take electives. Like I took narrative therapy, that was like a whole year serious situation. Then I took a whole year training and practicum of object relations, and that is nothing but process oriented. What are you thinking? What do you see? And so I think that people get lost in the sauce, not realizing that what you just mentioned in terms of the framework box of how you took that skill set that you taught yourself. Because not everybody's good at that, but you have to be if you want to finish school. All we're asking you to do is move it over to this side. And now it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you don't have the teacher, you have to become the teacher. That's the entrepreneur. Like you have to
Right.
become the teacher. And so
Create your own syllabus.
exactly. So in the earlier years of your business, like versus now, what were your, because you said contractual agreements and things like that. Walk us through what entrepreneurship looked like in the beginning when you were leaving the school?
Oh, I was all over the place. Like I had big dreams. I was like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I'm gonna go all over the place. And they kept telling me, so what do you do? And I couldn't tell you what I did without giving you a whole spiel of 30 minutes. And they're like, I need you to slow down. Like people kept telling me, how are you doing all this stuff? Like you can't be good at everything. And I was like, yes, I can. What you mean? Yes, I can. I can be good at it. But I think that that's where I started to really start to think about that capacity versus capability.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm capable of doing it, but what's the capacity? I'm going to wear myself out if I try to do all the things. And so at the beginning, that's what I was doing. I started over, I can't tell you how many times. I had to start over because I was going so big. And then I finally niched down into, okay, let me just focus on working with these kids.
Mhm.
And you and I talked about it, like I wanted to get out of working with kids. I was just like, I want to work with the adults. I want to do all of this. Like, I just, I even went and got certified as a professional life coach. I wanted to work with people with addictions. I wanted to work with people who were just struggling mentally to do the work, helping with that balance. And it was just all over the place. So
Mhm.
that was a huge struggle. But I think once I started to niche down, and I now am like, okay, I
Mhm.
recognize what my calling is. I recognize that I'm supposed to be dealing with kids. I'm supposed to be. That's what I was put on this earth to do. Like
Yeah.
I can remember being like a teenager, and people would say, "Well, what do you want to do? I want to teach." My best friend's like, "I want to be a lawyer." She became a lawyer. I wanted to teach. That's all I ever wanted to do was help kids. And so when I became an adult and I was like, oh, but I can go do this and I can go make this amount of money and I can go do this and I can go do that. I was like, then the Lord was like, no, that ain't it. That's not what I'm calling you to be. Like, who told you that we was gonna get sidetracked? And so it was quick that it was just like, well, let me go back to where I'm supposed to go. Let me go back to my
Mhm.
purpose. Let me go back to my passion. Let me go back to that. So now like I said, I work with kids, and yes, I do work with families too on in my business, helping them to manage those big emotions, helping them to when they're in crisis, on the education side of it.
Okay.
But with the job that I'm working, that I just started with the adoption agency,
Mhm.
I do get to touch with some adults too. A lot of that is touching with the adults, but it's because I'm good at that because I know the kids.
Right.
I've dealt with the kids who've dealt with these traumas. I've been working with those kids. I've been working on with those kids with focus. So now I can give you the insight from their perspective, but then also giving you the insight of a perspective from a mom.
Yeah.
And then how do you integrate those two together so that these families are able to have success?
That's like I love hearing the journey, and a couple of things like popped off in my head. So first thing is like following the breadcrumbs to explore. And I think that all of us as entrepreneurs, to be honest, and I'm gonna tell people to give themselves grace, but catch it, don't let it go on for too long because you'll burn yourself out. Is it is okay to be experimental at some point in your career
Mhm.
because you don't know what you are truly passionate about sometimes until you veer off and then you realize that God or some type of emotion or intuition snatches you right back, but at least you'll have a higher appreciation for it versus somebody who wants to experiment. Then what happens is, to me, those are people who like never get to their highest level of success because they
Yeah.
constantly are like, I think I shoulda, coulda, woulda, maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna do half of it, maybe I'm not. They launch it,
Hmm.
don't all the way launch it, kind of thing. And so I would say that that's a blessing in disguise. And some people
Yeah.
look at that as a setback, like I wasted time. And there's never wasted time because you would not be who you are now or have the opportunities like with the insight that you have now.
Yeah, the
So,
learning experiences for sure. Like,
right.
because, and I've had friends who have come in and started businesses after me, and now I have the insight to say, okay, let's look at this. Let's
Mhm.
slow it down. What does that look like? Whereas no one was, I didn't have anybody who was an entrepreneur who that I grew up around or that was around me who was doing it, who could tell me I was spending money left and right. And I'm like, bro, you don't even have this money. What are we doing here?
Chasing a dream. That's what you.
Yes, yes. And so yeah, I think, the experiences definitely helped me to be successful now. helped me. Like I already knew how to do the work, but I had no idea about, even though I taught business. I
Hmm.
taught business in high school.
Wow.
And I knew how to do all the stuff, but it's different when you're teaching it versus going into it and doing it, because you are so fueled by the passion
Hmm.
of getting the stuff done. And so I needed somebody to just like, girl, come back, come on
Reel it
back.
all in.
So,
Reel it all in.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you had mentioned the journey, and then it'll come back to me with something else that you mentioned at the end. um the working with the kids. And so every time I like listen to people work with kids, I'm like, but we're still working with the systems. But the one thing that pops in mind is, if you or someone else was like, but I still want like 5% of my time, to work with adults, technically you are working with adults. It's just that you are more in the preventative phase. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that's a blessing in disguise, because when you
Mm-hmm.
start seeing adults, you'll think, dang, if I would have got you at
Yeah.
17, we would have
Yeah.
been way off, like in a different area.
Yeah.
And so, I caution people that if their calling is in one area, but they're wanting to explore another, think about how those two areas are still interconnected and how you can still help that other person. Same
Yeah.
thing with adults. We had a conference at one point a couple of years ago, and they were saying that they wanted to work with the boys, but then it ended up being that we worked with the men. And I'm like, well, the men have unresolved boy problems. And so
Absolutely.
it works both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So you've mentioned a couple of times, in terms of, like, I know earlier you mentioned that you worked with like Africa and like other places. Can you walk those clinicians right now who are in entrepreneurship through what diversification looks like in entrepreneurship, not just therapy?
Yeah. So a lot of the times, right, as therapists, we know our craft. We know how to do the things that we do. But in business, just thinking about, like, when you go into a business and you're dealing with the business, you want to make sure that, yes, they know what they're doing, but also, how are you going to serve me?
Hmm.
What type of service are you providing to me? And so one of the things that I think that was really big in the success for getting all the contracts that I had was, let's see, one of them, let's see, my contracts in Texas were all word of mouth. I got one contract that I reached out to, and the rest of them were word of mouth, because they were like, "Oh, Miss Ware is so thorough. She's gonna get back to you in a timely fashion. She's really good with the kids. She builds the rapport. She not only talks to the kids, but she's also working with the teachers. She's also working with administration, like the teamwork and collab. Even though she's online, the collaboration is amazing." And they were just telling people from other schools, and the schools would reach out to me and say, "Hey, we don't have a counselor on staff. Is there any way that you can come service our students?" Yeah, sure.
Wow.
And then when I started going into Illinois, I same thing. Someone had a friend who worked in Illinois and was like, "Hey, I have a counselor who comes to my school. You may want to use her." That's how it came about. And
Wow.
so just really being able to offer that customer service.
Hmm.
We talked about, a lot of times with the systems that we have in place. I didn't have any systems.
Yeah.
Now I'm working on putting in systems to come into place.
It takes time. It takes time.
Yes, it's time, right? And so I think, so now I'm working on those systems. I didn't have those systems before. Everything was word of mouth. Everything was, that's how I was getting it. But it wasn't my therapeutic experience, that expertise that was coming in, that got those contracts. It was the service that I was providing for them. It was them knowing that they could count on me to do the things, going over and beyond, for what I needed to do. Now listen, I was using all the resources to get the stuff done,
Yeah. Yeah.
working smarter and not harder. But because of that, that's how I was able to get all of these contracts, and build that side of the business up. It was that portion of it that did it.
Yeah. And I want to package this up for someone who is listening to all of this or watching all this, is like, use your gifts,
Hmm.
use your abilities, use your levels of expertise, and use your gifts. And so I always like to pull in. It was one activity we did with like our mastermind clients a couple of years ago. And from time to time, depending on what coaching call questions come into our like private practice community and such, I will pull this in just to remind people, like, you do have a life outside of therapy. You do have a personality outside of therapy. You have roles and responsibilities and gifts outside of mental health services. And just because we pay to be here doesn't mean that's the only place that we live. And so it was about, what was it? It was maybe like 11 therapists out of the full cohort, because it was during the the situation, 2020 to 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put them together, and I wanted them to start learning how to barter for services. Because what tends to happen, and I'm just keep it 1000% real with clinicians of color, but people of color, we don't know how to share for real. And everything seems to have to be in exchange versus like value based. And it internally bothers me because this is stuff I would teach in cultural like competency, as I would bring in these conversations like, this is why other cultures may move a lot faster because we don't know how to share. And so let's talk about bartering. So just
Listen.
yeah, so imagine yourself being in a room. We were in Vegas at the time. And we put those big post-it notes all over the wall. I put them in groups of 3. And I said, you're not allowed to share with your group because all of y'all gonna have a chance to talk like 30 seconds each, not no long speech. I want you to bring in 1 to 2 gifts or expertise that you have that has nothing to do with doing one-on-one therapy. It can be something behind the scenes, like me, quality assurance, putting together a chart, program development, but it could also be I dance, I rap. All of those things could diversify my streams of income or help me be a better therapist for kids. And so it was really interesting. Once they started talking, they started realizing how they had been together for a full year and had not truly known each other beyond their titles,
Mm-hmm.
but they were in accountability groups and all these things. And what started to happen, because they did repeat another year with me, about 75% of them, it was very fascinating what started to happen because they by far were probably the closest cohort that we had at that size that met in person because they then knew what other gifts each other had. So let's just say if you have a gift of putting together a syllabus and that's not my gift, I may be working on something with my interns in my group practice. And I'm like, I know this part of my process, but I know she can teach it way better, even if I give her my syllabus. So I may pull you in paid, or is there something in your business that you need from me? Oh, you don't like the paperwork for the charting? I'm a QA person. I got you. So now we can meet each other with tea online if we don't live in the same state, but we can still barter. And so I just want to highlight that for therapists because sometimes we only think about what we can pull into our business based on our expertise. And we forget that that's the reason, honestly, why groups exist. And don't get lost behind the facade. Oh, it's just a group coaching program. You're still in the group. So why aren't you using the group is the question.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. So let me tell you, I love the whole bartering system. My son goes to a private school, homeschool coalition,
Okay.
and I service them.
Wow. In what capacity? Tell me more. Tell me more.
I,
Tell me
Listen,
more.
what you need? What you need? Let's exchange services, right? Um, I have another friend who owns a spa service, and my business has nothing to do with spa services, but she wants to work. She works in wellness, and she has women who are coming to her all the time who are stressed out about whatever. Okay, no problem. Hey, I have this skill. I can do this. And she's like, oh, okay, well, let me come over onto your side and let's build this part of, making that the whole connection.
Yes.
We
Yes.
can we can help each other's communities out, and I'm not charging her to come over to her spas when when she's having her spa days or whatever things that she has going on, and she's not charging me to come and talk to my clients
That's dope. That's
about
dope.
certain things. So yeah, so just making like having that, but that's the support. That's that get out of your box,
Mm-hmm.
have the conversations, and think about, not just what's in it for you. How can all of us win?
Exactly. And that's the mentality that if we're looking at this in timing, 2025, as we started off the introduction to this podcast episode, was like it's been a doozy. I mean, everybody probably came in this year with a word, and I'm sure we probably holding on to that word like a thin thread because it's been a very trying moment.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, like we still, if you were grateful and blessed enough to make it to the end of the year, that means that you are open to see what's about to happen for next year. And it only can go up. Pain is temporary. It's not like we have not been through trying times before. It just may hit different. And
Mm-hmm.
so, because you just brought up self care, I want to pull that in. What are some fun or interesting things that you do outside of work that brings back life and fun?
Yeah, so I am an avid reader. I am going to read all the, I probably read, let's see, last year I read 247 books. I'm going to take my time to
I
read.
have to
I
do
don't, I don't, I don't, what's going on around me.
that.
That's my escape. And I will read the stuff. Like, yes, I read the self-help. Yes, I read the business books. Yes, I read all those, but I am going to read the books that take me outside of anything that I do in the norm.
Yes.
Okay. Because that's my escape. My son told me the other day, he was like, how is this helping your life? I was like, what?
Like that's 75% of the rest of my day. Like, let me have my
Right.
25%.
Well, I just need a break. I need to escape. And so I do that. One of the things that I do is I don't allow for people to ride in the car with me.
Now
That's
that's a
my
good one. That's
time.
good.
Hey, we're going to the same place. Can I ride with you? No. Simple as that. Now people don't even ask me, can
Wait,
I
I'm
ride
like,
with
I'm
you?
thinking about it from a whole different perspective. I'm like, because I want to leave when I want to leave. That's why you can't
Well,
ride
I
with
do.
me.
Well, but I don't want to have to entertain you.
That's good.
I don't want to have conversations with you that I don't want to have. I want to use that time for me to get into me
Mm-hmm.
and have my own space, my own, time, no matter how long it takes me to get there. Like my kids both played sports and we would take trips out of town, and people would drive and they're like, oh, Tisha's riding with you. Nobody. Nobody. Well, we could carpool.
Why did what
I'm
is
a
it? Keith
drive.
Sweat. I think I just saw a holiday what is it concert? They said Keith Sweat, and all I can hear as you're saying is like nobody.
I'm telling you. But that's my time. Like and people know it. Like, don't, no, I'm not gonna give you any explanation. It's just no. So I ride in the car by myself.
Okay.
There are some things that, and I'm really big on separating the things of self-care and self-maintenance. But I understand how, it can sometimes intertwine. So there are some things that I do that are non-negotiables. I'm going to go have my monthly facial. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to get manicures and pedicures. I'm going to make sure that I'm getting that massage in. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
those are things that are non-negotiable for me. Like, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do that. On Wednesdays, I don't cook. Don't look at me to cook. Matter of fact, when I get home, I'm showering and I'm in the bed by 6:30. Don't talk to me.
That's
Mama, what
so
we
good.
doing? I don't know. Figure it out. Like, it's the only day that I don't have to do anything throughout the week. Figure it out. You
That's your
go get a
wellness
frozen
win. I call them
pizza. Yeah.
Wellness Wednesdays. I used to do that too.
Yes,
That would
yes.
be my day to get out the house and have a date, and it would either be hair done, nail done, facial, or because I would flip flop it throughout the month, or a massage. But I'm like, Wellness Wednesdays is mine. For me, I had a
Yes.
son in daycare, so I had to really like block it off. But that block of time gave me life back.
Yes, yes. And even this is one thing I just recently started, which is an everything shower
Mhm.
on
Yes,
those Wednesdays.
yes,
And I was telling my best friend about that, and she was like, what? Did you say having an erotic shower? Girl, no, everything. And so now she has them on Wednesdays too. And she's like, girl, I just had my erotic shower. Girl,
yes,
stop.
yes. She
But
replaced it.
it makes you feel so good to
Mhm.
have like like don't
That's
interrupt
a
me on
spa.
Wednesday. At 6:30, I'm having my spa service in my room with my dry brush. Everything is happening on that Wednesday. And when I get into my bed, I'm just like, by 8
Yes.
o'clock, I'm asleep.
Oh my gosh, this is
I don't
like
know what didn't
so
happen in my
good.
house. At 8
I
o'clock,
know
I'm
the
done.
therapists out there like, okay, they're gonna be asking you what is every because I heard
Listen,
that from a girl. Like I watch a lot of the Disney travel content, and the girls do it right before they go on the vacation. And I'm like, so the one girl actually did like a day in the life travel with me. So she broke down like these are all the things that I do in the shower, and I said I like this, and
oh
don't
yeah.
nobody bother you, and everything is done, and you can take your time. It ain't no mom shower.
Mm-mm,
Chill.
mm-mm. I'm telling you, I've been doing it for maybe about 2 months now, and it has changed my week. Like I love it.
Life
I don't know what I
changing.
was doing before. And you like when I tell you I got all the smell goods, all the oils, all the body treatments, everything. But that's just like that's my midweek. I'm not waiting until a certain time in a month to do it. Like it's something that I can do every week to just have my own little spa day in my house. You may not be able to afford to go get facials every month and you go making sure you get your manicures and pedicures, but you can always go do your stuff in your bathroom.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you
Um,
brought that up as well, because it's like also we talk about diversification of income, but diversifying how you take care of yourself.
mhm.
And during certain seasons, whether you have the money or not, there is never an excuse as to why you cannot do something for yourself. You just have to be creative, because some people are
Absolutely.
not fortunate enough to have certain weathers. I'm in California, so our weather is way different year round than even Texas. You can't go
Yes.
outside, it's too humid, it's too hot. But
Yeah.
what can you do inside your home? We buy everything
Yeah.
else on Amazon. Why can't we like get
Abs-
something for those seasons?
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I do is I do solo dates.
Mm. Talk more
Every
about that.
month I plan, huh?
I said, talk more about that.
Yeah. So every month I plan a solo date. Some days that solo date is I'm just gonna cook for myself and it will be a new recipe that I've never tried before. And I'll do that. Some days it may be wine and movies. I'm
Mhm.
gonna finish my bottle of wine. I'm gonna watch me a couple of movies. We're gonna go on about life. Some I've even gone to like candle making classes by myself, and I'm doing everything by myself. I take myself to dinner by myself all the time, so that's not like one of my dates. But like going and doing things that you don't have to wait on somebody else to do. You don't have to wait on a group or your partner to take you to do those things. Just go and do it. I've gone to whiskey making classes by myself, like those type of things, just whatever I do, but I'm very intentional about it. In January, I go to my calendar. Okay, this is the day I'm going to do for January, February, and I just plan them out on the days. And then I go through and say, okay, now what do I want to do?
Mhm.
And then plan them out.
That's so, so good. I'm like, I know the people in her collective, like, we need to have a whole workshop on the shower, the date,
I'm
driving
telling
by yourself. Like, bring it back.
I'm telling you, but I think it all goes along to what we talked about too, like that, setting those boundaries for yourself. Setting boundaries for yourself is self-care. That is a
Mhm.
part of self-care all in itself. And so just being like my car thing, like that's a boundary. Like I don't
Right.
care.
So let me ask, because
However,
when I think about like our audience, like I said in the beginning, we have two groups. We have the pre-licensed. Well, we actually have three. We have pre-licensed, licensed, and then we also have like the general public.
Mhm.
And as we wrap up, I like to ask one question, but we can address it to each audience. So for those who are on the journey of getting licensed, it probably feels like it's super lengthy time, like forever. But they're looking at time management and keep going. Like, what's something that you can tell them on the other side of like what's possible, just so that they don't give up in the mix of things? What was something that you would share with them?
Um, I would say discovering what your why is. When you discover what your why is, it makes it a lot easier for you to go and do it, to finish it out, and to have that follow through. I can't say that my why is so, it started out my why being I wanted my son to see what success looked like, in the business world. Now it is I want to see how far I can go. Now it is, girl, you were thinking that this stuff wasn't possible, or it was, but what if this doesn't, happen? Or what if this, I can't do it? But now my question is always, well, what if it does?
Mhm.
What if I am able to do the things outside of what I could ever possibly think to dream of?
Mhm.
And so once I determined what my why was, like it was easier for me to go through and to have
Mhm.
that follow through with it. I try to tell my boys too, in anything that you do, make sure that if it has your name on it, you're going 100%.
Mhm.
100%. Like you are not going to outwork me. Like I'm gonna give you 100% of me every single time.
That's good.
Now, I'm only gonna give you 100% of me when I have the capacity of it at this point. Like I've
Mhm.
learned that, but every time that my name is attached to it, it's going to be great, right? And because that's just who I am. That's what I'm bringing every
Mhm.
time I come into it. And so knowing that I really truly have a passion to get out here and help people reach their highest potential, help families who are in need, and showing that there is something on the other side of what we thought is, oh, that's just normal. That's just how we live our life. No, we got to
Mhm.
get up out of that. We have to do something bigger and better for our lives. I think that part of knowing your why and where you want to go, being intentional, um, will help you with your follow through.
Yeah, and I also want to I like to bring in themes or like words, and what I heard from you is also accepting evolution, because sometimes when we have a why, we lose motivation meeting people. We lose motivation because the why is no longer doing what it's supposed to do, or maybe you've reached that level, but there's always another level. And while we should not be treating our life like a checkbox, because we talk about that too, like also enjoy the present,
Mhm.
also give yourself, as you mentioned, permission that, oh, wait, I can actually do more. And so even let me change the words that I'm using. So
Mhm.
versus like, oh, this is all I can do, or what if it doesn't happen? Well, what if it
Mhm.
does happen? We talk about that in our community as well. I bring it up like the what would you do if game, or what happens
Yeah,
if game. Start playing that game with yourself so that you can see where your mind will take you, not where you will take you, because you're going to limit yourself, if you stay in this
absolutely.
box. So it kind of like goes into, because I would even want to like seasoned entrepreneurs or individuals in careers to even take that and apply
Mhm.
it. But if you were talking to those who are licensed and or seasoned, and they are in a state, which they bring in our community a lot, I'm at capacity. Considering what we talked about with self-care and trying a lot of things at one time and realizing that ain't good either,
Mhm.
what's one thing that you would want them to take into the new year so they can come in with peace?
Yeah. Plan,
Mhm.
plan. You may be at capacity right now, and you need to think about, like you always talk about, doing these audits, doing these life audits, thinking about what are the things that necessarily don't serve you. Because there are some people that we have in our lives that drain us and it stop us from doing the things that we really need to be doing. Right. There are some things that we spend so much time on. I'm guilty of it. Listen, I will scroll TikTok all day long and just be like, girl, go to sleep, right? And so what are those things that you're doing that you know is occupying more of your time and taking up the capacity that you have? When I like to think about, your capacity as like a bank account. If you are constantly taking things out, taking withdrawals, eventually you're going to go into the negative if you're not making deposits. What are the
Mhm.
things that you need to make into your deposit? And as you're going into 2026, sit down and plan out, what do you want to see your life looking like? What goals do you want to accomplish? I am a 12-week year. I love 12-week year. This is my next year will be my third year doing it. I have seen so much success with doing that. It's breaking down my year into those 12 weeks, and then breaking it down by day. And that's another thing, like I had to learn too, was even though we have these hefty dreams and these hefty goals that we want to have, once you break it down into the 12-week year, and then you go in and break it down by day, once you're done, you're done. Don't try to do the
Exactly.
stuff for Tuesday on Monday when you're done. That's how we burn out, because we're trying to
Okay.
do too much. When my checklist is done, listen, I finished the stuff that I needed to do at 11 o'clock this morning.
Hmm.
Am I going to do something else? No.
Absolutely not.
I'm gonna go sit at my desk and just be like, what?
But that's that S word, structure, you know. And the crazy part
Yeah.
is, again, going back to that therapist question, is you have to create
Mm-hmm.
your own structure. Nobody can create
Yeah.
that for you. And the
Yeah.
reason why we sometimes never have we have a never ending day is because
Yeah.
we don't have a plan, as you had mentioned. So I love that for you and for everyone who's listening or watching, because the plan will dictate how your day is supposed to go anyway. So for
Mm-hmm.
outside of mood, hormones, and people pregnancy and life events,
Yeah.
you should be able to dictate and even project out like, I'm gonna wake up and this is how my day is about to go tomorrow. This is how I'm gonna
Absolutely.
end my day. And it's only three things on there, not 10. And I'm not gonna try to
Absolutely.
outdo myself for tomorrow. Please stop. I love
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. On Friday afternoons, that is my CEO time. And that's when I'm planning out my next week.
Mm,
And I'm going to sit everything on Monday. This is what I'm doing on Tuesday, on Wednesday, and Thursday. When I'm done, I'm done.
that's good.
I'm no longer burning out myself and doing, oh, let me do all this stuff. And then, I'm like, okay, well, let me figure out what I need to do next or what I need to do. No, I already created the plan.
That's
And
good.
if
And you're
I
gonna
follow
follow the
this
plan.
plan, yeah, and if I follow the plan, I'm going to achieve my goals. I don't have to do the extra stuff
Mhm.
every single day.
That's good. That's good. So I want to thank you, because this episode definitely, like, I think brought up a lot of things that have been talked about in our communities, or like I said, in like individual smaller accountability groups or silos. And this is the type of conversations that I would like service providers, women entrepreneurs, to start having more of. And I keep highlighting women entrepreneurs outside of service providers, because as we know, looking at statistics, women in this day and age compared to maybe our parents and grandparents carry a lot. And we did not, that's a whole nother episode, but we we did not abandon being a nurturer at the same time being sometimes the breadwinner. So it's
Hmm.
like having 3 to 4 full-time jobs at a time. And that within itself is tiring, you know? So we
Absolutely.
get the capacity, but I love how you said capabilities as well, like
Hmm.
understanding the difference. And so where can everybody find you on the different platforms? And then we'll also make sure to link it below. What are your handles?
So I am on every platform, Tish Ware, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay. So y'all make sure to go and follow her. And what we always like for everybody to do, once you've heard this episode, I want you to go into her DM and let her know that you heard it. Let her know what your takeaway was. Let her know if you got a question about the everything shower, you feel me? And in her collective folks and DTA folks, if you know, y'all know these are people. And so go and shout her out. And so I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a so good and juicy podcast episode. And when I say it was the right timing with everything, it was
Yes.
perfect. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And for those of you who are listening, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to YouTube, and we will see you in the next upcoming episode. Bye.
Mhm.